I'd like to welcome everyone to Visual Research and Discovery, See Connections, and Accelerate Learning. My name is Shelley Hayduck, and I'm co-hosting today's event with Matt Caton, our Director of Customer Solutions.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. As Shelley said, research comes in many shapes and sizes. There's no one size fits all. So we've got a lot of different examples to share with you, and hopefully you'll find a way to apply those to your own data collection and research that you're doing. But if you do want to see, hey, what would a brain look like on a particular topic? Surprise us. Go ahead and write that into the Zoom question and answer panel. And if we have time today, we'll see if we can build a brain on a mystery topic on the fly. That'd be a lot of fun.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes, it's very easy to do with AI these days. So, okay, well, what we're going to start by covering the dynamic research ecosystem that you can build within your brain. So I just have a variety of examples, and then from there, Matt's going to dive into intelligence notes driven sometimes by manual entry, sometimes by AI. And all of these examples are real world examples that our users are utilizing today and are deriving a lot of benefits from. One of the problems that we have with all our technology, including AI now, is research isn't really just about collecting more information. It's about transforming those silos and those big piles of information into a meaningful context. Even if you are using, a chat dialogue box, after a while, you're going to lose good research unless it's tagged, unless it's searchable, and unless those intangible connections that you make in your mind come together. And then, of course, that's all augmented and accelerated when you share that brain as well. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. And the first example I'm going to start on is my teaching and learning brain. Now, pieces of information in the brain are thoughts, and the thought can represent any type of digital information. So every time I click on a thought, it's going to show me all related pieces of information. So as I'm clicking downward, if I want to go into the science portion of this brain, for instance, I can see all kinds of things. Now, I've actually got my distant thoughts turned on in this brain. So when I go over to my biology and life sciences area, I can not only see these different categories I have about the human body or genetics or living things, but I can kind of see one generation away. That is not the default setting, but it's a setting that I think has worked pretty well with this brain. If I want to turn those off, I can just go into this particular area and look at things in that way. Now, you'll notice in this brain, in addition to being able to visually map out the structure of your information, we have color codes and icons. So the relationship map is one way to look at your information. But what we also want to talk about is how we can add a typology with thought types and thought tags. So I have a typology in my brain, and this is a very general, let's say high school, early college style brain, just for the purposes of example here, where we've mapped out different knowledge types. So for instance, a human system, if I click on that, I can actually go to that particular type of knowledge, and I've got it color coded, as you can color code, as well as a standard icon. And that's going to take me into that particular type of knowledge if I just want to cover all the human systems that exist. So you can navigate up, down, any way through the connections. I can click on a thought type to get to a specific type of knowledge. In this case, I might want to go to the nervous system and go into my nervous science area. I can also tag information. So one of the advantages of the brain is the multiple ways you can look at information. So if I just have this information, my neuroscience information in a folder, I pretty much have to decide, what category does this belong to? Does it belong under cognitive science, brain health, what I did, in 2021, several years back? Does it belong under my new curriculum? Um, I I can't see the many different dimensions that exist in my knowledge set. But with the brain, one piece of information can be effectively located and categorized under many different topics. So in this case, I got to it from nervous system, but this is also in another category of knowledge I have called brain health. And you can see that this particular thought type is all about diseases that you can get with the brain. So in this particular case, you can move very quickly into different domains. And in addition to just visually mapping out the information, you can see with the color codes, with the thought types, things can really come together in an interesting way. Now, so this, I've just clicked on this thought on Alzheimer's, and you can see this is part of my lesson plan and brain health, but I can also do some causality and link relationships, and we can cover that a little bit as well. This particular disease, there's a neurotransmitter that has been implicated, and it's called acetylcholine, and that's under neurotransmitters, which is under brain chemistry as well. And if I want to look at other neurotransmitters in this brain, I can do that, and I can see kind of what particular drug they might relate to. And we have a lot of pharmaceutical companies, a lot of science and health research companies using the software. You can map up drug discovery protocols. And so anything below is an instance of that. So in this case, I'm just looking at a particular type of drug, and that's a class in a particular class. And that takes me back up to neuroscience. And if I want to go back up to the top of my brain, I can do that. Now, there's many different views that you can look at your knowledge in. We're going to come back to this brain, but I also have a longevity and human health brain that was completely generated by AI, and we're going to cover that. And I prefer to see this in my mind map view. So if you actually go to the view setting here at the top of your menu, you can see the different options that you have. You can have mind map, outline, normal. If I go back to normal view, this is normal. I can also choose to show distant thoughts, a second level of this. So there are many ways you can decide, how does this information make the most sense to be presented to me within the visual interface. And you can also navigate through the notes if you actually don't like using the Plex, and that's fine. You can actually go through your backlinks and mentions, and I'm actually navigating my mapped links now, going to human health and longevity in my notes section, and we'll cover a little bit more of that. But what I want to do right as an introduction is really just paint a picture for all of you so that you understand the flexibility of visualizing information in the brain and the various options that you have. Now, of course, in addition to thought typing and knowledge architecture, a lot of researchers are aggregating a lot of different documents and content. So I'm going to pull up this brain really quickly. I've just switched to another brain. This is, and you can see each tab here shows me the different brains that I have. Now, this could be one brain with everything together. But in this case, because I know we've got our pharmaceutical, our science researchers, we've got our university professors, and we've got our teachers. We've got a broad range of researchers on this call. I'm gonna sort of move around a bit so that everyone can get a sense of how you can use the product in different settings. So in this particular case, a lot of professors, teachers, and knowledge workers struggle with finding the right document. So you can also create a map of key documents that you want in your brain. And in this particular case, a lot of this information for elementary school is licensed through various sites. So they don't want to lose the information that they have. And it's all kind of similar. Graphics are really important. So we have some visual icons so that people can see, kind of what different assignments are being utilized, what the assignment is about. And then of course you can click on that PDF and launch that document as well. And you can view it in the content area or launch it in the other area as well. And this can be connected to a curriculum if this is related to a new curriculum that you're working on. I'm just going to make a connection to curriculum resources. I could connect that. So now that's available in this particular area, and I can really grow and learn and leverage all my documents. And all I have to do is drag and drop any document into the brain, and that automatically gets that document in. So I'm going to go back to my teaching and learning brain and do a little bit more authoring there so you can get a sense of what's going on here. So I'm going to go into back to this brain, teaching and learning, and I'm going to click on what I'm learning about. And I'm going to go into social studies and political science. And notice every time I click on the thought, it's triggering all related pieces of information. Now I'm going to click on United States government, political science. Now, if I want to create a new thought, maybe I want to build my new lesson plan for politics, fall semester. I'll just say fall course. I can do that. And from here, if I have an existing document, I can simply go ahead and drag and drop that into the brain. Just go ahead and move my window. So let's see, I'm going to take, these are all early elementary stuff, but let me just drag this particular document in. So when I do that, I've set that up so that it's actually going to make a copy of this. And now it's in this brain. It's available. I can go ahead and take some notes on, what this does in the notes area and continue to connect this knowledge to anything else that's relevant. And the other thing that I can do is build my taxonomy through AI. So if I want to go up to the AI button, I can simply click on this button at the top of my screen that says AI and generate maybe this section, it's only got 4 thoughts. I want to do a little bit more. So I'm going to just, it asks me if I want to keep my thought name, and I can keep that as it is. I can set the creativity index. I'm actually going to set the context thought to social studies, so it gives me a little bit of gives it broader. And I want categories. I don't just want specific. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and generate this thought structure. And what that's going to do is it's going to go ahead and put in some categories for me automatically. Now, I'm not sure how long that'll take with the Zoom happening, but I can actually, I'm going to move into another area while that's happening. Oh, here it is. Okay, there we go. There we go. And hopefully you guys can see that. So what it's done is it's given me a couple sections on political ideologies, participation, theory, and so forth. Now I have the opportunity to accept that or discard it. And I'm actually going to redo it because I actually want to do political science for ancient Greek and world history. I want to broaden it. I don't just want it to be about the United States. I want to go back in time, and I'm going to keep my category. And now I'm going to go ahead. In terms of generating thought structure, you can generate it to surround your active thought. I like to go downward. So I selected child. And that's a little bit more interesting. I actually like that. I'm going to accept this. And this is kind of cool because you can see we're getting into Greek political legacy and modern systems, the Spartan military and society, Roman Republic and Greek influence that we have. So this is nice. You can see how I've gone from a political science section that was, very, very, very conventional to something that's a lot more inspiring. And from there, I can keep building. I can take this thought and I can generate a note. If I just want a quick summary on what this is about, first of all, I can continue to build my taxonomy downward just by hitting this AI button. But in this case, I'm going to go over to my note area and get some writing assistance. And I'm going to generate a note on just specifically the Roman Republic and the Greek influence. In this case, I can add anything more to the note. If I just want to add the Roman Republic, just make it about the Roman Republic, I can do that. I can actually change that. It does not have to match the name of your thought. I can set the word length. I actually have my word length set pretty tight because I just want just a little snippet of note for me to kind of get it to spark my knowledge. That I'm going to build my own knowledge below. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And now you can see I actually have a note on the Roman Republic. And this is very interesting. It's talking about their political structure, their social structure. Obviously, I can go in and edit and change whatever I want. Now, what you'll see, the brain's flashing at me. Hey, Shelley, I can accept, redo, discard, change it. In this case, I'm going to go ahead and accept it because it's not too bad, and we don't have time but I can easily change. So if I don't want to talk about the social structure, this isn't relevant, and it just becomes a document. So I can take that out. I can go ahead and highlight key areas that are, maybe a little bit more relevant to what I'm doing, change the color, that sort of thing. So that's how you build. And then you can continue to, make connections to maybe that's relevant to are my United States presidents. We should look at what happened in this time period to analyze, where we're going today, so I can make these lateral connections that make sense. And I'm just going to jump over to this area as well, because this is a great area to talk a little bit more about display. So in this particular example, I've got some different thought types here, and I'm sure we can all kind of see what those are. I've got a thought type for the Federalist Party, the Democratic Party, and the Republican Party. And this is an example of how you can set up large bodies of knowledge in many different ways, and also utilize thought types as a different layer of ontology on top of your taxonomy. So obviously I've got them set from number 1 to number 47. I've got some very cool zoomable icons, which they should zoom. I'm not sure with the web meeting why that's not happening. Matt can probably show that, but they zoom and they're very cool. And I can also, what I want to show you is how you can arrange your thoughts. So in this case, I'm arranging thoughts by name. I could do date modified, activated. That's really good if you're just looking at like the latest and greatest documents that you've created or a team member has created. Type is interesting, if I want to look at how many presidents do we have from each political party, and I can go ahead and do that and come in here and look at that. And then, of course, if I want to expand on any of these presidents, I can do that. I'm just going to pick a Federalist, that maybe I don't know too much about. And I actually added a note already on that particular Federalist. I could add another note on John Adams. So I'll just go ahead and click the AI button, and let's just generate a quick note just to get some content in there. And I'll keep it up. I'll keep my word count at 350. And I've got that note happening as well. So whether it's my ideas or ideas that you might want some assistance with, the relationship between the visual display and your notes is very helpful, because rather than me just creating this document, I have this document in the context, and maybe somehow John Adams is going to relate to that new stuff I'm thinking about in the Roman republics. Maybe I found some connections there, so I can simply link John back to that. Sorry, let me accept this note before I do that. I'm going to accept it. Looks pretty good. And the other thing that I also want to show you real quick is our search web feature. So, this might be a little old school. I know we're doing a lot of information with AI, but I absolutely love this as a researcher. What it does is it takes your active thought, whatever that might be, and it launches a web search in your favorite browser. And, this is old school, but still relevant. I'm going to do my Google search on John Adams. I can use the AI view. And in this case, I'm kind of curious what news articles they have on an old political leader. And there's an interesting article written about July 4th, all kinds of things. So in this case, I'm going to go ahead and drag and drop some news articles on someone from our past. And all I'm doing is I'm dragging and dropping in the same way I drag follow, and I'm creating links and connections. I can do the same thing, which is actually really cool if I want to do videos. Let me just I'm going to go to YouTube. I'm going to shut this off, and I'm just going to drag and drop this YouTube link too, which is actually kind of cool too, because you can get the YouTube links playing in your content area as well. In fact, we actually have Joint Council of Cardiothoracic Surgery. And that brain, there is a video on our TeamBrain page where they are teaching surgeons how to, all about heart surgery, and they do a combination of their publications, their YouTube videos, all organized in the Plex with thoughts and thought types. So this whole idea of aggregating multimodal, multimedia content from a web link to a document is something that can be done very nicely. And then, of course, you can search that content. So if I want to do a search for anything on, let's say, the Roman Republic, I can simply just start typing that search for the Romans, and it's going to pull up all kinds of things. In this case, I'm just going to go to my Roman thought, and that can take me back to my Roman Republic and Greek influence thought, where I can continue to build my knowledge. And so that's kind of a quick overview on the research ecosystem that you can create through your thought relationships, your thought types. Did not get to tags, but I'll pass it to Matt because I think you can cover that in your, I don't want to tip your in your Shakespeare brain,
Yes,
which
yes.
I
The
know
question of
everyone
tags
loves.
came up, so
So
I'll certainly demo
um,
that.
unless there's any other questions on any of these brains, and happy to share all of these brains as well.
Great. And so I am going to share my screen now. There we are. So this is my Shakespeare brain. Thank you, Shelley. And thank you, everyone, for the great chat questions in the Zoom Q&A. We're trying to get to all of those, and I've got a few that redirected sort of what I'm going to demo for you here today.
Nice. I love that
Yeah.
wallpaper. Sorry, I
Oh,
just have
thanks.
to say, and I'm a visual learner. It's probably why I'm, part of the brain. But so this is something that I hope somebody's asked in the Q&A. We'll cover that later, and I'm going to mute myself. But I just want to say that looks fantastic,
Thank
Matt.
you. Yes, and you certainly can. As you've seen in Shelley's brain, you'll see in mine, you can customize the look and feel of the brain to really give it that personal touch. It's a digital reflection of your own organic thought process. So go ahead and, change the fonts, change the color codes, change the background and so forth to reflect the nature of the brain that you're in. It also helps you to identify which brain you happen to be opening. If you're one of those folks that has more than one brain database. As you can see, Shelley and I both have more than one brain database. So I've got a lot of different wallpapers for different brains, and they sort of help me to, identify which brain I want to open or want to launch.
And
So
there's
this
a
is,
little bit of
yeah.
a visual irony in that it's this new cutting edge technology of the Plex on a paper parchment. So I
Oh,
like
yeah.
that contrast, that yin yang in terms of looking at That's something you can think about too if you're a teacher or creating your corporate intranet, to throw something different behind the actual knowledge. And it does help. It helps a lot.
It certainly does, yeah. And this brain gets a lot of those types of people say, "Oh, where did that?" This isn't a built-in wallpaper. This is a customized wallpaper. But this brain is all about William Shakespeare. It contains the complete works of William Shakespeare. Now, full disclosure, there's nothing new there. There's no copyright on Shakespeare. So you can find the complete works of Shakespeare online at many different colleges host them. It's all over the place. But what I've done is my own, added my own research and additional information to better understand the context of when a play was written, the subject matter of the play, what was going on in that time period in that part of the world, and so forth. And sometimes it adds some additional context. So here's an example of a research brain that's on specifically literature, but it goes beyond the literature and goes into the research of the individual plays or the characters and so forth. So, of course, a quick tour of this brain. I have movies that are greatly influenced by Shakespeare. I'll give you an example. There's the one I really like to point out, The Lion King. Many of us know The Lion King, young prince, his father is betrayed by his own uncle. That's both the theory behind Hamlet and the theory behind The Lion King. So it's The Lion King is the animal version of Hamlet. Some people are kind of surprised when they hear that information. So that's an example of the type of tie-ins that I like to do, more modern relationships and impersonations or impressions of plays that have been written by Shakespeare. I've got Shakespearean games in here. I've got my own favorites. I've got Shakespearean resources. We'll get to these in just a moment. And as I mentioned, the complete works of Shakespeare. So here's the first feature in the brain that I want to share with you. First and foremost, and this one came up in the QA, how can we rearrange thoughts in large groupings of thoughts? So these are all the comedies of Shakespeare. As you can see, alphabetical order right now. But if I really want to start breaking down, this structure of data, whatever it is, whether it's a group of literature or chemicals that I'm researching for my chemistry class or what have you, sometimes you don't want to go in alphabetical order. You want to pick and choose. There's a process that you need to follow. And let's say this is part of a reading group, but we're going to be reading in a certain order. And the very first play we're going to read is The Tempest. So I want The Tempest to appear first in this group. I want to share a feature with you in the brain that I really like, and it's simply called the hidden ordering system. If I say .5 and add a space, I like to go in increments of 5, 10, 15, 20, so that I can weave in another thought at a later date. But it basically puts these in order. So by naming it dot and then a number, and I did that by alt clicking, or you can click on the active thought or alt click on any thought in the Plex and rename it. And as you can see, Tempest goes to the very start, and the .5 is not displayed. It is when I alt click, once again, if I'm going to change the name, the .5 is there, but it's not displayed in the Plex. That's the hidden ordering system. And it's a really, really great way to say, hey, here's a chunk of data, a group of data that all falls under one category, and I want it ordered the way I want it. And you can change that at any time. Taming of the Shrew is going to be our second play that we're going to read. So I'm going to alt click on that. And with my naming conventions, I would say .10. And this will put it second in my list. So that's something that you can experiment with. You can also just not include the dot if you want your thoughts to be displayed 1, 2, 3, 4. You can. You can also right click on the background and arrange thoughts by, and you have just a slew of different options here. I'm arranging thoughts by type or alphabetically by name. But you can name them, order them by date created, modified, and so forth. A lot of different options for you. The next feature that I want to share with you while you're collecting your data is that we can start to apply additional context and information in the links between our thoughts. So I'm here on a thought called A Midsummer Night's Dream. You can see it's one of Shakespeare's plays. It's a comedy. It's one of my favorites. And he wrote it while he was working with the Lord Chamberlain's men. That adds, again, additional context. I know what grouping of plays he wrote with what theater company he was working with at the time and so forth. And as you can see, one of these thoughts has a little identifier on it. It's in orange, and it is my current focus. That simply means I'm currently reading this book. When I look at all of my different comedies, I can see that I'm currently reading The Taming of the Shrew, or excuse me, sorry, that's on Midsummer Night's Dream. So that's my current focus. And you can do that simply by double clicking on any link between two thoughts and adding your additional information. Why is thought X related to thought A? If you were saving your information in a file and folder directory, there's no way to explain why this grouping of 10 files are in this folder. It's a subcategory for some reason, but some of them might be more important than the others. They might have additional value or context, and those link labels allow you to do that. Here's another example of link labels. I go down into technical studies and many of the different plays that I read. And if you're familiar with A Midsummer Night's Dream, it's sort of the original Three's Company, but it's with four people instead of three. There's this, sort of lovers triangle that's happening. So Hermia, one of the main characters in the play, daughter of Aegeus, she is in love with Lysander. Lysander, as you can see, is in love with Helena, and Helena is in love with Demetrius, who is in love with, back to Hermia. So no two directions are going in the same direction. That's the whole point of the play, and thus comedy ensues. So again, we just set those up by double clicking on the thought and defining the relationship. Hermia loves Lysander, and setting up a directional link. And that's really important in a sometimes in a research brain. A particular outcome is only affected or effected by a particular process. So you need to have those link labels and directional labels between thoughts from time to time. Those become incredibly helpful. And that's just a toggle switch. As you can see, I can click to turn it off, or when I click, it turns on in one direction, goes in the other, and turns off again. So you can toggle between those directional links. The additional option you have is setting up a one-way link. I wasn't really planning on talking about one-way links, but with one-way links, be careful with those. You'll only see a thought coming in from one direction. So if I say Aegeus is the father of Hermia, but I want this to be a one-way link, so I turn on that one way. If I go to Demetrius and back to Hermia, you can see that her father, Aegeus, is no longer there. I'm only going to see Hermia show up, or Aegeus and Hermia, when I come in from the same direction. So if I go to Aegeus, there he is, and come down to Hermia, then I see that label, that link on the screen, because it only appears coming from that one direction. But if I sneak up on it from the other direction, it's not going to be there. I hope I give a good explanation of that. So those are some of the many things that you can do with links between two thoughts. The next feature is just really, really a crucial component of building research brains. Our own organic brains, they can't keep track of everything. I know mine can't. Your digital brain never forgets. So if I go to a particular play, I'm going to go into my resources right now and go into my brain, my Shakespeare brain dictionary. Now, when I come to a word that I don't understand, I add it into my dictionary. So this is a dictionary that I have been building over time, over the past decade or so. Kiki Wiki. What in the world is Kiki Wiki? Never heard of that before in my life. Kiki Wiki is a ludicrous term for a wife. So when you are reading All's Well That Ends Well, that hugs his Kiki Wiki here at home. It's just saying a man hugs his wife. It's actually a beautiful yet kind of joyful little expression. So when I got to that, reading All's Well That Ends Well, I didn't know what Kiki Wiki was. I had to look up the meaning. I added it here to my brain. This is an unlinked mention. So when I am reading All's Well That Ends Well, I'll go directly to that thought in my brain. You can see I've got a little character study down below. All's Well That Ends Well is one of our problem plays. They didn't know whether there's funny parts of it, and then there's tragedy within it as well. So it falls under both categories. And over on the right, you can see is the complete play. So I can read through the whole play in this brain, but I'm going to quickly do a search. I'll just do Control F. Nope, sorry, not that. Let me just click on the button up above. I forget what my shortcut was for doing a search within my notes. So here, I'll just click on the ABC button, and I'm going to do a search for Kiki. There it is. There's that line, Kiki Wiki. And as you can see, that is underlined in blue. So these are discovered for you automatically in the brain. And that's something that's very, very unique about the brain, is that it automatically discovers these backlinks and mentions. There's a lot of apps out there these days, and there's some mind mapping apps that I've seen where it's like, yes, you can add them if you want, the beautiful thing about the brain is that as you're typing in your note, or if you cut and paste some content, I can see that anything underlined in blue, there's a thought that has that information on it that I can look up. So KikiWiki underlined in blue. Here's the word bound. If I right click, I can activate that word. So it takes me to my dictionary. And I just didn't understand it in some context where it was used. As you can see, Shakespeare used the word bound 201 times in his plays, but it simply means to make a leap. So I didn't have to look too far into it. Bound sadly, home for Naples. So in The Tempest, he was destined or taking a leap towards Naples. So all of those unlinked mentions show up for you as you are reading through the content. And then I can look at the word bound, the thought that I'm on. Here's wherever the word bound is showing up in any of my other thoughts elsewhere in the brain. So if I want to find the word bound in Hamlet, I can see it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times there. And I can go directly to Hamlet, do a search in the notes content for the word bound, and start reviewing. So again, I'm surprised in the brains that I build from time to time when I find that I'm typing in a word and it underlines it in blue. I'm like, oh my gosh, I already have some data on that. As your brain grows and evolves, you'll find how valuable this feature becomes for you in any type of research that you may be doing. So, my next brain that I want to share with you, and we're going to jump away then. I am bound to leap away from the Shakespeare brain and into my Smart Notes brain. This is a brain that we created collectively at the Brain Technologies. It's actually part of Shelley's teaching and learning brain, but we found that it was so valuable. We grabbed a section of that brain and made it its own brain. This, again, is a brain that you can download and access either online or grab a local copy. And it's all about the 5 best, most proven methods for taking notes. And that's what this is all about. If you're in research, you're a student, you're a professor, what have you, taking notes is such an important component of education. And this is a really, really great brain that gives you 5 proven methods so you can read through the content. And you can start with the simplicity of the sentence method. The sentence, there's a video for each method, there's templates and examples. So sentence method is very straightforward. What's the date? What's the subject? Here are 10 facts about that subject. So if I look at my example, the Concord, the date that this note was written, the subject is the Concord. Here are 10 major important, it's sort of like flashcards. Here's 10 things you need to remember about that particular topic. Very simplistic and easy way to take notes to better understand what you're researching. I'm going to jump ahead. So we go from a sentence to an outline. I think we all know what an outline looks like. I'll go into the Cornell note-taking method. So this was a big one when this came along. Someone, and the history behind the Cornell note-taking system is all there for you. Let's just jump down to the template. As you can see, you have a cue, then you have a note about what you've been cued on, and you can have it multiple different cues with multiple different notes and your summary. So if I look at my example, I've got 3 different examples. This one is, should I eat meat or be a vegetarian? My cues, would I like it? What are the benefits? Does it matter? What is the cost? And here are all the different notes. And in the end, my summary of what I've discovered when I review all this content. Yes or no, should I eat meat or be a vegetarian? So that's just an example of the type of data you can drop into a Cornell note system. Now, I'm going to take this, I'm going to copy this content, and this is what people really like to do with this brain is they turn it into their template brain where they can go in, grab some content and use it over and over again in the brain that you're creating. So I'm going to click on File and I'm going to create a new brain. And we'll just call this my planet travel brain. So I'm researching traveling to different planets. Okay, there's going to be a lot of space research and so forth. And it gave me a nice little Earth view. The brain always selects one of your different themes or wallpapers. So I'm just going to stay with that one. And planet travel. So obviously, we're here on Earth. We're thinking about Mars, and we'll say Jupiter. Earth, we might go to the moon. So a subcategory. What are the benefits and so forth? I'm going to control V. Oops, I had another word. I was looking up how to spell the word hallucinations for an AI question. Let me go back to my smart notes. There we go. Right click and I'll copy that content. I must not have copied it. And control V, paste. So there we go. So a lot of people like to have template brains where they have notes that are pre-formatted in the proper note-taking format that they really like. So my topic is going to the moon, maybe living on the moon as opposed to just going to it. The date, I always like to date all my different notes. I hit Control D, that adds the current date. That's my keyboard shortcut for adding the current date and time in your note. And I'm going to talk about the cost. If I have an additional table, these are tables within the notes. I can hover over and click a plus sign so I can add a few more rows. If I wanted to add a couple of columns, I can go up above, or excuse me, down below and add a column. And if I wanted to remove it, I can select with the arrow and delete. So you can format tables within your notes that work really well. And the cost, I want to research the cost of, getting there, shift enter, staying there, and, how much does it cost for my parents to visit or what have you. So researching the different costs, I'm doing different categories. Safety would be another cue and so forth. And in the summary, yes, I think I will live on the moon. So the note can grow and evolve over time. Anything that you add into your notes or into your Plex, it's automatically indexed. So I can do a search for the word staying, and it might not have indexed quite yet. There it goes. Well, this is where the word staying is appearing in some of my other brains. This note hasn't saved yet until I navigate to another thought, and then it'll be indexed by the brain application. So I can find all of this content in the future, and then of course I can go to my next thought and paste in my note template and continue on building here in this particular brain. So that's a little bit about the Cornell note-taking system. The next feature that I want to share with you actually harkens back to the fact that I said this brain this Smart Notes brain came from another brain that Shelley had earlier created. And that gets us into a little bit of exporting components of content. Importing and exporting into the brain is always going to be an option for you. Now, we have entire webinars based on importing and exporting from the brain. But if you do need to import something into the brain, and this question came in earlier in my in the Q&A portion, how to import from a Word file. So I am going to jump back to Smart Notes, and I'm going to go back to that area that was all about the outline method. So let's go to our templates, and we've got an example here of an outline. It looks like this is all about Edgar Allan Poe. I am going to select this outline. I'll copy it, Control C. I've copied that onto my clipboard. And actually, let's do this. Let's tab all this over one time. Can I do that? Tab. And up here, tab. Oh, I want to change that into a normal, and I'll say tab. And this, I'm just changing a few things really quickly, normal text, so I can tab over, and all of this needs to be tabbed as well. And the reason why I'm adding these tabs is because I'm going to copy this outline. This outline could exist in Word, it could exist in Excel with different cells. In Word, for example, though, if you tab over and you create an outline, that outline can easily become a new brain. So I realize Edgar Allan Poe has nothing to do with planetary travel, but I'm going to use this as an example anyway. From my thought under Mars, I'm going to right click and notice that the brain recognizes that I have a properly formatted outline that I can now paste as thoughts. So I'll paste this text outline as thoughts. And what I'm going to see is the very first thought was the subject, Edgar Allan Poe. And then below that, I had all these categories. Now, I didn't review my tabs very nicely, so it looks a little bit jumbled, and I can certainly go back and rearrange these. But there's early life, that category. He had novel, beginning writing his novels and so on. So all of those subcategories that were tabbed over, as you can see, it retained that hierarchical structure. So you can very, very easily import a properly formatted outline into the brain. So if you've got an outline of the structure of data that you're going to be researching and you are ready to start putting that into the brain, rather than building it out meticulously piece by piece, you can obviously take that outline and import it into an existing thought structure that you can continue to build on over time. Also, another great thing about outlines, and I'm going to jump back now to my smart notes, and let's see if I can. It might have synced in the background, but Control Z. There we go. I'm just hitting Control Z a few times to go back to the structure that I had. So that's heading 2. We'll make this heading 1. We'll make that heading 2 as well. And this, subtitle 2. There we go. And this is going to be a title. Great. So I've rearranged some of the structure here in a way that I like. So now I have my outline in my note, and I'm using the this drop down up above. This is how you are going to format your paragraph styles. And the advantage to doing this is that if I have a note that I really like and it's ongoing, I can add a table of contents. So I'm going to insert a table of contents. I'll go down to insert table of contents. And this is pretty small. I have only structured my title and then a couple of subtitles. But as you can see, I can click and go directly to that location in an outline. I love this feature. I do have table of contents on some very large notes that I have. The other thing that I like about it is that notice when I mouse over down below, here's my life overview of Edgar Allan Poe. I'm just going to minimize that. I'm focusing right now on his publishing career, most specifically about his novels that began in 1838. So I'm going to minimize that first paragraph as well and just focus on this section. So you can actually collapse and expand your outlines that you're building within the brain as well. Sort of a hidden little feature, but in a research brain, when you've got a very, very huge data set, and if it's properly formatted and you're using all of these markdown settings for titles and subtitles and so forth, you can create these table of contents. And the table of contents are great because they build themselves. If I come down below and I add a new thing about after his death that I'm researching, that's a whole new category, and so I'm going to make that subtitle. If I go up to my outline, you can see it's already there. So anything that I add into my outline will be there for my table of contents in the notes. A really, really, really great feature. And with that, that brings us to thought types and tags. So this is the last component that I want to share with you. Thought types and tags are a great way to add additional context to all of the brains and the thoughts and the data that you're collecting in your brain databases. So Hamlet, just happened to go back to my Shakespeare brain. Hamlet is a play. It's always going to be a play. Yes, there's movies called Hamlet. I have those over here as well. But it is a play. And so therefore play is the thought type that I have assigned this. If we find out later that Hamlet was actually a real person that a play was written about, and I want to reorganize this, yes, I can change it at any time. So I can change the thought type, but you can only have one thought type assigned to a thought. So Hamlet, that is a play. My thought tags, I can have multiple thought tags assigned to a thought. So I always think of tags as attributes to a thought, whereas a thought type is a major classification. Hamlet is a play. It's one of my favorites. I have read it. I keep track in this brain of what I've read, what I haven't yet. So, yes, obviously, I've read Hamlet. That's one of my favorites. And I have a tag here for Thomas Middleton. This might be a little controversial out there, but it is believed that Thomas Middleton may have helped to write, or did Shakespeare do a little bit of forgery because it wasn't so, it was probably easier to do back in the day. Many of the things that Thomas Middleton has written, there's a lot of commonalities between Othello and Hamlet, and what Thomas Middleton typically wrote about. So, was he just inspired by Thomas Middleton, or did he help co-write? Historians go back and forth and so forth. But therefore, I just have that other tag. Again, a little bit of additional context. And I should probably have over here in the notes the research that I've done about Thomas Middleton and why I think maybe Hamlet was written or co-written, I think, by Thomas Middleton. So those are thought tags, and you can change them at any time. If I decide, oh, wait a minute, I marked this as read, I haven't read, or I forgot it, I can replace with I have not read it. And therefore my shortcut is just no, I haven't read it, that you see that appears there. But when I click, it goes to things that I have not read, but they're sort of on the radar. So I do plan on reading them at some point in the near future. That's my have not read it yet category. So those are a couple of different examples of tags. As some very lightweight examples, tags are used by a lot of our brain users for research, for development of brains and many different categories. And some of the more important business related demos that we show where we use tags for people that are responsible for certain projects, or if something is urgent as opposed to tier 2, tier 3, back burner, and you can move things through a process using those tags. Just as I changed Hamlet from have read it to have not read it, I can also change things from this is DEPCON 1 to DEPCON 2 and so forth in research brains that I'm putting together. And Shelley, I think that brings me to time for the Q&A. I've was sure to end it just before the hour so we could have some time. And I'm not sure if Shelley is with us. She might be chatting with someone there in the
Yeah, no, I'm
Oh,
here.
there we
I'm
are.
just for some reason
There we go. I
Zoom
see
was a
you.
little sticky. It's like, hi. Yes, very good. Lots of questions, and I'm glad you covered tops and types because there are a few more I think we probably covered, but because there's so many questions, I'm just going to backtrack a little on those questions. One coming in earlier from Bernie about describing how to edit, change, and rearrange a long list of types, and what happens if you delete a type that is being
Sure.
used for that thought. And I'm just going to kick things off by saying thought types are really great for creating a visual guide that automatically changes and updates with all your thoughts. So one thing I love about it, like in my human body thought, if I decide I don't like that graphic for all my 100 thoughts that are of that type, I can just change it once and it permeates across all those thought types. And then likewise, if I don't want the thought type, I can delete it. The actual thoughts are still there, but that type will disappear. And then, of course, I'll let you get to the fine
Yeah.
details of his questions in terms of editing and rearranging a long list of types and so forth.
Sure, sure. And as you can see, so this, I am on a thought type right now, a play. These are all the plays of Shakespeare. And I've got other categories, the sonnets of Shakespeare, the poems, movies, and so forth. Those are all specific categories, and therefore I use them as thought types. If, as Shelley mentioned, if I go to this particular thought type and I change the icon, I can come back to this and change it at any time. So yeah, I'll play around with this a little, but select a stock icon and I decide this is going to be the icon. Notice down below, it changed the icon, except for an icon where I've customized a zoomable icon. If I've added my own icon on the thought level, that is going to take precedence over the thought type icon.
Right,
But for the
exactly. So
rest,
you
as you
can
see, it changed
still
the thought type.
you can have a little bit more variety as well, even if it does
Absolutely.
have the type.
Yeah.
And then of course the in this example, because it's Matt's wallpaper is really shining, I tend to use the darker color backgrounds. So when I color my actual thoughts, I really like that. So then you'll see a little bit more of the color popping as well. So you don't necessarily even have to, if you're kind of going for a more minimalistic look, you can just do color
Yeah.
codings with thought
Yeah.
types as well. So
And again, yeah,
it's
it's universal for all
personal
thoughts of that
preference.
type. Yeah. And the
Hmm.
great thing about that is too, is once you start you doing this, you can see these are all plays down below that he wrote in his retirement. But if I go to Lord Chamberlain, no, I don't have the poetries of his writings written in there. But nonetheless, plays are going to be, always follow, and I'll be able to identify this is a play. And here's a thought, not a thought type, but a thought on Thomas Middleton. So I've got a lot of his info. I do have a lot of his information in this brain as well. Um, but regardless, changing the order of groupings of thoughts. Now, you saw earlier under my comedy error area, I gave some of these if I alt click, I gave some of these a number in the front that using the hidden ordering system. That's just one way to change the order of the thoughts. Another is if I change actually the thought type, and I can order them by thought types. So in other words, if I wanted to first see all of the thoughts that I have read, I can make that a thought type rather than a tag, or all the plays that I've read. So let's say loves labor lost. I have read that. I'm going to change this to a new type called Reddit, and that is a new type. And therefore, when I go to all my comedy plays, it's putting my thought types or my thoughts that are the type play before Reddit. All of my Reddits will go into one area in this cluster of thoughts. Merry Wives of Windsor, I'll mark that as I've read it as well. You'll see what I mean. So that's not a play, that's a play that I have read. So I'm going to mark it as Reddit. And if I go back to my comedies, you can see it clusters all the thought types together. That's really great in a research brain. I'm sure you noticed in Shelley's brain, she could say, all right, show me all the presidents in order. Okay, show me all the presidents in chunks according to their political affiliation. So you've got many different ways to order large groups of thoughts within the brain. We've got a Brain 202 class where we really go into depth for these. We even create intervening thoughts. So, in other words, I'll have a subcategory for comedies that I have read, and I can start simply moving thoughts under that intervening category. Much Ado, Measure for Measure. So, you can see I've moved those into this subcategory, this intervening category, comedies that I've read. A lot of different options for rearranging those thoughts. And nothing is ever permanent in the Plex. You can always go back and edit and modify as your projects, as your research, your discoveries, as they evolve over time.
Nice. And then we have an interesting question. Where did my question panel go? Oh, okay. By Timothy, how can the brain be used as a flowchart sequencing? And that's very interesting. It depends on what you want to do because you can actually even put preconditions on the links. I know you have the pharmaceutical example, and Matt, if you want to
That's
go to
what I was just thinking.
teaching and learning, or I can, while you're looking for that, take presenter, but I think it's better if you keep it. If you go to my political area, what I did is if you I mapped out, it's kind of it's history, so it is what it is, but from the crash of 1929 to the Great Depression to World War II, starting with 1939 German invasion of Poland, I actually mapped that as a parent-child relations to do a sequencing of world history. So we also have that example. Not sure what example if you guys are interested in, but
Yeah.
we can
Yeah,
show either
I'm
or.
seeing that now. So you've got it's sort of built out as a timeline. The
Okay.
example that
All
I
right.
had for research is
Mm-hmm.
how to sign on a new client for this is for a bio medical company. First, you have a face-to-face. Was it a success?
Yeah,
Yes or
that's a
no?
good one.
So yeah, the thought labels are leading you through a very specific path. If it was not a good face-to-face meeting, then the next step is to finesse the deal. And I've got a checklist, give them this additional information, have them talk to some of our, people that have that we've enjoyed working with in the past as a reference and so forth. At 2 months, have another check-in. Yes or no? No takes you in one direction. Yes. Then you go directly to the client non-disclosure and signing a contract. Are there any disputes? Yes or no, or maybe. So you can have the links actually guide you through a process. Shelly's example is guiding you through a timeline. We've also done that in our space brain. You can research all different kinds of things about space and technology and in human advancements in space. But you can also just review it by here's what happened in the 50s, here's the 60s, year by year, and you can see the development in time
Yeah, we
through
actually
that
do a
brain as
lot of
well.
work with
Yeah.
call centers where if then
Hmm.
scenario. So if the customer has this type of machine, then the set of thoughts appears there. So the brain is sort of a natural scenario-based scripting
Yeah.
tool. We also have, you can use it as a podcasting script as well. So if you go to one area, you can click on that area and then see all your other things that you want to talk about. So that is an interesting application. And that's something that we do. And I think somebody was also asking, using your tags and types with the Shakespeare brain, can you give me an example how your thinking can use AI in this system? So
Oh,
William was
interesting.
asking how you can combine AI in your Shakespeare brain.
Oh,
And
I've
actually, we didn't
actually
do too
done
much
it.
AI.
Yeah.
We did a little bit of AI earlier, and
Yeah.
then so yeah, let's give Shakespeare some
Okay. Oh, we'll put it to the
artificially
test. I
created
like this.
thoughts, and it could be
So,
on thoughts or notes,
oh, I'm going to
right?
go
You
to
could
my
do a
sonnets.
section.
Yeah, I'm going to go
Okay.
to my sonnets. And let's say I have actually, there is a sonnet that I really like. And it's okay, this is the sonnet that I really like. And I even highlighted over here, thy gift, thy tables. So everything you've given me, all the knowledge, all the information are within my brain, full charactered, like written out detail by detail with lasting memory. So Shakespeare's being very like everything you've ever said to me or done with me, I'll never forget a single moment. I have it all, hard coded into my brain. So I always kind of think of that of like, oh my gosh, that's the digital brain. He thought of the brain years ahead. But regardless, I can take something like this. I'm going to copy this and paste it again. My rewrite of this sonnet. So I'm just going to paste it down below. And now I'm going to select all this. Now, okay, I get it. Shakespeare can be really hard for people to understand. There's crazy words in there. You've got to, sometimes you're going back and forth between a dictionary and the book and so forth. So let's select an existing note and let's use AI to summarize this note. The text reflects on the enduring nature of memory and love. It suggests blah, blah, blah. So it read through that and it gave me a
Nice.
nice little summary.
Mm-hmm.
So now that's exactly what I was looking for. Let's rewrite this. I'm going to go back to AI. Let me select. Oh, I need to accept that. So first I got my summary. It explained it to me and I really like it. Now I want to use AI to rewrite the selection, rewrite it rewrite in just 4 lines in modern conversation. So not all this Shakespearean hubbub. I just want to, your thoughts are etched in my mind, unforgettable. It's fantastic. So it
Hmm.
just takes the entire thing and rewrites it in a way that many of us today can easily understand. Keeping notes would mean I forget, which I won't. I love that. So I'm going to accept that. I've used AI to better understand my content, to rewrite my content. You can use AI on a list of bullet points to say, hey, write a book about this outline that I've just kind of chicken scratched onto a note. Or go the opposite way. Take this, take this entire script that I've written into a note and tell me what it means in just 5 lines, summarize it. Or turn it into an actionable checklist. That is a really great thing. You're taking a bunch of notes on a project you're working on. You can select that, and one of the options is, there's not much here for this, but I can go into AI and say, all right, extract action items. What do I need to do first in this particular process that I'm mapping out? So that's my example. That's one thing where you can utilize that AI to actually make you smarter. Use the brain's AI to make you, the human, smarter.
And Adrian was asking if you could do it in the style of Twain.
Oh yes, let's do that. Let's see if I
Okay,
still.
now we're getting
Now we're
into
just
the
having
let's
fun.
do it. I mean,
Yeah.
we actually and as we're doing this, I should let you know we are on the hour. We're going to go like 7 more minutes into overtime. For those of you that do need to leave on the hour, you will get a recording of the session emailed. We'll also post a recording. And we also have the 101. I don't know, do we have a 101 class tomorrow or is it next week? Every second Friday we run them. So if we've gone too far too fast on the webinar, this is more just to inspire you and to play. But if you want a practical, like how do I get started, building thought by thought, do join us for that class. And that's every second Friday.
Now, I really hope that
Okay.
you know a little bit about Mark Twain out there because this is fantastic. I took the paragraph written by Shakespeare, rewrote it as Mark Twain, and of course it says, "Now I reckon that poor retention couldn't hold a candle to the vastness of your memory." Oh my gosh, it's perfect. It did a great job. So that's exactly what Mark Twain would sound like. Love it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, and
Okay.
I think we covered most of the other questions on thought typing. Tim had asked, or Timothy had asked, if they has anyone used the brain to track their learning, development, and progress of their golf game. I know you do marathons, and I know some people that do martial arts. I don't. I'm sure we have some golfers out there. I don't know, Matt, if you
Yeah.
have any examples.
Well, I think the first thing I would reply to that is we don't see everyone's brain. When you create a brain, you sync it to the brain cloud. Are the only person with access to that brain until you decide to share it with someone else. Yes, I've heard that golf brains have been created. I have not created one. It's not my game. But I've heard that they're out there. I keep track of in my own recreational brain, running and exercise and health and my routine. And I would imagine that golf is no different. Where I've played, what I scored, what can I improve, and so forth. Those are the types of things that I do with, I go for a run. And I leave a little note in my brain, what worked, what didn't work, what I'm going to look forward to next time. So I don't see why yeah, you shouldn't start right away using the brain to just become uh, not a dictionary, but a journal about your golf game, your experience, and your
I mean,
progress.
health and longevity, including
Yeah.
your own personal benchmarks, is I love using the brain for that. So I think that's
Mhm.
a great application. I think with that, I think we covered everything. Is there anything more, Matt, that you wanted to show?
I'll share with you that we don't have a Brain 101 this week, tomorrow, but there is one next week. If you're new to the brain, if any of this was a little bit over your head, join me for a Brain 101. They're every other Friday, and we talk about just the basics behind creating a brain, getting this started, not some of the advanced features that we show here today, but how you can just simply get started building the core structure that you will continue to evolve over time. Those are our Brain 101s that we have every other Friday. So take a look for one of those in the future. But thank you for joining us today. And we're always available to answer any questions you have. Support@thebrain.com. Send
All
us an
righty.
email. We're happy to hear from you.
And I think with that, we're going to close today's session. So I wish everyone well on their visual research and discovery journey, and hope you've learned how to map your knowledge and utilize some of these features and give them a try and let us know what you think. And we'll look forward to seeing you on future brain technology events. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.